Afternoon, everyone. Dave Carvalho here with the Diocese of Fall River, and I'm grateful to be joined by Lynne Stewart today. Lynne, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good, good. Nice, great start to spring. It's actually sunny today for a change. Spring showers are coming soon, which I'm not a huge fan of, but hey, it'll be good for my lawn. So, uh, hoping everything is going up in Easton as well, which leads us to the next point of Lynne, if you want to tell us who you are and where you're coming from.
Sure. So my name is Lynne Stewart, and I have been a parishioner of Immaculate Conception Church since 2004, when we moved here. And I had been a catechist for many years for my three children and really enjoyed teaching. And I raised my hand to help out in the faith formation office. And all of a sudden, I was hired to be the children's faith formation coordinator. So I've happily been here about 3 years, focused in on grades 1 to 7 here on site, and doing special programs for the parish as well.
Awesome. Isn't that true of all of us, probably, and anyone watching this who works in church ministry? At some point, we all get voluntold to help in. But that's the beauty of the call of the church, is sometimes we just get that great little nudge, and then the Lord works some great things. So, Lynne, thank you so much for raising that hand 3 years ago, and for everything you've been doing now in North Easton. Today, we're going to be spending a little bit of time of talking around the question of children and families, especially young children and families. It's a question we get a lot of, just what should a parish do? What our parish is doing? What is working? What are areas to explore? Especially as the landscape, at least here in the Northeast, has been changing of just family dynamics, families' openness to the faith, potentially what families need to the faith. So, Lynne, thank you so much for giving a little bit of your time today to kind of unpack some of those questions, at least from your experience in the past 3 years here at Immaculate Conception. So that being said, you may want to start off with talking a little bit about like how you've kind of engaged that question. How have you, and the question around how to engage children and families, how have you started to try to do that? What's some of the things that you've maybe done?
So it's definitely been a process of building over time. And so the first things that we started with were the natural place of the children's liturgy of the word, which we only had the capacity to do monthly. And so we started there and we just jumped in and ran it as best we could. And now we're in a position where we have strong volunteers to that and have been able to do that program weekly, which has been amazing and a great way to engage not only the kids that are already enrolled in the program, but those that are younger as well. And a relief for the parents that do come to Mass, that they can, they'll be able themselves to pray in the church while their children are also learning, but at their level. So that's been that we started with that. And then we started with some family programs around the liturgical year. So we started with Saints Day Parade that we did, which was a lot of fun and has meaning for families. Nice conversations at home about why are you dressing up as a saint. So that was really enriching and simple to program. And the other one was we started with Advent wreath making. And in addition to, as the parish had always done, doing greens and all the candles and the traditional piece, we made sure to have kid-friendly activities. And so we were looking at how we could engage children at that to make it family friendly. So for example, like Play-Doh wreaths and coloring and teens to help out with those. So those were two easy places that we started with.
Awesome. So let's unpack some of that. So for those who might not be familiar, Lynne, can you describe to us what exactly is Children's Liturgy of the Word?
So this is can be in a couple formats, but the way that we do it here at Immaculate Conception is we all are together in the church for the 10:15 Mass. Father Neil does the opening prayer, and at that point, the volunteers come to the front. The children are called up to the front. Father gives a blessing, and the children walk out to the space in which we hold Children's Liturgy of the Word. There, I'm proud that we recently created a room that feels pretty churchy in there. We used to just be in a classroom, but now we have a space with a makeshift altar. We have a crucifix in the room and candles in there. And so we walk the children through the different readings. We have holy water so they can bless themselves, do the gospel reading. And then one piece that's been important for our population is to do something hands-on with the kids. And so there's always a simple craft that ties back to the gospel reading. Father Neil's homilies tend to be on the shorter side, so we've learned to be efficient and, good with the time that we have. It's been awesome for the kids to be able to digest what they should be learning at church, and kind of bring back that one message back with them. So that's been wonderful, and our kids look forward to it. we've grown now. We started off with my son. That was it. One time we had 3 helpers and just my son, and then in time it's grown where we have volunteers running it and maybe 20 kids each week. So it took a little bit of time, but definitely seeing the fruit of that.
Awesome. And you named a couple of different family activities, Advent wreath making, and Saints Day parade. Can you share a little bit about, if a parish might be thinking like, I want to start with idea, what should I just start with? How did you come up with some ideas? Like, where did it come from that you decided, let's do Children's Liturgy of the Word, or let's do Advent wreath making in a Saints parade as opposed to say something else?
I will say that some of these, I feel like all of these ideas are from somebody else. So, for example, I love asking, not that we want to go back in time necessarily, but there are some things that worked awesome in the past at the parish. And parishioners here are delighted to talk about what it was like back then and what was engaging to their kids and how things were. And so some of the ideas maybe don't quite translate to 2025 for our families, but there are others where it's like, all right, this is a good classic thing that we should be doing. So, for example, Advent wreath making had been done for a long time. Children's Liturgy of the Word had come and gone in different variations, but there seemed like that was one that would be very helpful to our current families. And then just talking to other directors of religious education, like just getting ideas about what they're doing. And it might not be the exact program that they're doing, but it sparks something because I know the parishioners here and the kind of help that I have and the space that I have. And so all of a sudden it forms into something that works here at the parish. So, one great example, I'm going to jump forward a little bit, but we had an event recently where we were doing Stations of the Cross. And the first year was for families, and we did a little educational component after soup and bread. Did one little quick little program for the kids in a conference room before we went into the church, and it was fine and worked all right. The next year, we're like, all right, let's try something different, and we did resurrection eggs. So we were down in the gym, and the kids put together a carton of eggs, and each egg had a different symbol related to the resurrection. And then, so that was fine as well. And then just looking and like kind of just staying open to what's happening around us. We're looking at parents who are tired and might need a little bit of a break. And so, literally, the subject line to them this year for Stations of the Cross was, do you need a break? We will watch your kids and you can pray. And so, we had teenagers and quarried adults in the gym, and parents dropped their kids off in the gym. And the parents themselves went into for Stations of the Cross. We actually did it through Mary's eyes, which was awesome. And it was interesting that it happened. The attendance, we weren't busting out of the door. There were maybe 10 to 12 kids, including the helpers that were there. But it sort of sparked something for us where it was like, who was this really best for? Was it the parents that were attending? Like, because it was awesome for them. Was it the little kids who had the best time having their own like playmates, or was it the teens because they had a blast? And so all of a sudden we saw something like that, and it's like, okay, what else can we do in that kind of format? So kind of always being open to different ideas of what might work at your own parish.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great point that you've shared about learning from others and what's worked, but also being attuned to those who are with you. So tell us a little bit more about like how, what are the families like at Immaculate, and how have you kind of engaged them to try to see where to put your energies?
So last spring, I actually tried to do something a little bit formal, and this could work somewhere else, but I bring it up because what I realized is I had asked, parents to come together. Let's talk about like, what do you need? What do your kids need? What can we could provide? And had posters and a little chat and everything, and it was fine. But I wasn't reaching everybody that I needed to reach, and so I have really found that the most effective thing is just chatting. Just like when the kids are in class and the parents are either dropping off or hanging out, is just to just talk to them and, not come at them as, although I have particular questions I have in mind about, what should the objectives be for this program, but just how are you? And just really listening to like, where they're at, like, and how, and then me thinking about how could we support them. And I've floated ideas by parents as well, and that's given me a good gauge. So the teens babysitting, that was something I ran by just a couple parents just to see, and they didn't come, but they were like, yeah, that actually could be a good idea. And so, maybe they'll come in the future, but I was happy to have some kind of feedback that I was not missing the mark, that this is a good thing to follow up on.
Yeah. What have you found are some of, if we're looking at young families with children, what are some of the kind of the needs that you're trying to address, but you feel that really churches need to be mindful of?
I think it's the classic, just overscheduled parents. We're just definitely in a day and age where there's so much coming at us. And I think that having a different tone in this office of just being welcoming, supportive, listening, journeying with them has been a positive thing to make them feel like they are seen. I think that it's the pocket of time that I'm really trying to insert ourselves into is that piece between baptism, just so beautiful in the beginning, and in a way, it feels like sometimes we say, "Well, we don't really have too much for you until you start coming back in first grade," and as young as that is, a lot happens in those years with the family forming its own habits, its routines, like and so I would love and we've started to try to be intentional about that pocket of time, to really help those young families feel connected to the parish, to feel like they have a support system with us and that, we can help them in their children's, faith journey as well. So still trying to figure out that piece of it, but I feel like there's good potential, with that pocket there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great point where there are some things I think maybe families might be expecting from the church, but there are other things that because church has never really offered it, families have never really thought to turn to the church, especially in kind of those younger years where a parent with young children might really just need other parents to be in community with to just know how to get through them, just how to parent. How do you handle sleep regressions? How do you handle the terrible twos? How do you handle what your marriage is like during that time when you're both kind of out of sleep and your schedules aren't linking up? And how can the church insert itself into those conversations? How can
Mm.
it say, we can come alongside you, and either with kind of mentors in our church who are good married couples who are already doing it that can be walk alongside you, or opportunities where individuals can coalesce in the action of faith? I know one example you shared me on a different time was even just during classes, like having things available for parents with smaller children that if their older children are in class, they can kind of just hang out and have kind of free space, free time for their small children and just give themselves a break. You want to comment on that at all, how that's kind of been?
That has been awesome, particularly on Sunday mornings, exactly what you said. They've got a younger kid in tow, and they'll just stay and they'll hang out. These are the parents where we, have really gotten to know each other. They help with little projects, folding things, cutting things, whatever it is, like, people wanna be helpful, and be involved in it. It helps me, but really what's been happening over that chit chat and just casual conversation is going back to what you talked to is one was trying to select a preschool for her son, and it was this other parishioner who she didn't know except for through the church who had given her a whole bunch of advice. And I heard her say, like, I decided on this one because of our conversations together. And so that was a really neat piece about the community building. I think that structured programs are like amazing, but I'm reminding myself that there's beauty in just the casual connection and the natural build of those relationships and support system. Um, and having just the space together. And so then on Mondays are a little bit different. Like Mondays have a different energy to them, and the parents are grateful that they can bring those younger kids who aren't enrolled and just run around in the gym. But then I'll go through and I'll talk to them about, how are they doing, and again, what do they need, and what was it like when you were growing up, and what are they struggling with? And then also, because I'm living this daily, like, I know that we have children's liturgy of the word, like, I know that we have, like, information on our website, I know what programs are coming up, but sprinkling into the conversations, like, those different programs and getting "Oh, I didn't realize that," makes me realize that word of mouth is, important, as well.
I mean, it's a very great point. It's really, in many ways, as families are evolving and shifting, how can we evolve our thinking less from programs to more ministry? And ministry involves less of like strict, here's, material, let's get through it, as opposed to let's create spaces, let's welcome people into those spaces, and then let's be present to those people in those spaces. And that
Mhm.
sounds exactly what you've kind of shared is people have come because you've created spaces and that speak to their needs, And once they have come, you minister to them, whether it's talking to them, whether it's sharing information, what's going on in the parish, whether it's about making relational connections in between them. And that's really how community forms. That's how people see a value in whenever I go to this space, it meets a need. My children can run around at a time when I don't know what else I could do with them in a safe place. And number two, I can meet with other parents and have practical conversations, and it's a positive experience. And I think that's some things that I think young parents will look for in general, whether it's sports, whether it's activities, is there's a space. Their kid is doing something, an activity or a sport that they're getting enjoyment from, and they're able to build a pseudo community with other parents on the sidelines waiting. And it kind of begs a question for the church sometimes to think about, have we done something similar? Have we thought a little less constructed, perhaps as you have, in saying, how do we create connections, community spaces, and then minister to them within that? And that goes a really, really long way. So I really appreciate you kind of naming some of those things and working on those things. And on the point of connections, if you wouldn't mind speaking to, I know recently you had shared of how you've connected some of your first communicants to older individuals in the parish. So kind of an intergenerational connection as well. Do you want to talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, so this was something new that we tried again, an idea borrowed from somebody in the past, and it worked out awesome for us and made me really excited to, kind of build out this program. But we just started again, all of these things are just start simple, keep it simple. And so what we decided to do, our second graders are invited to 3 particular masses in the spring. One, they put a name on a banner that we hang in the church and get a tour of the sacristy. Another one, they attend with their godparents or grandparents or parents, and they have a special blessing. Like, the idea is to get them to mass, and then we always have that hook afterwards of donuts. But the one that was really awesome was doing a prayer buddy mass. And so I reached out to the friendliest faces that I could think of. We have a lot of older parishioners just exuding faith and just really friendly. And so I targeted them and asked them to be a prayer buddy and told them that it was really little commitment. It was to attend the 10:15 mass on a particular date, and invited the second grade students as well. The second grade students sat together, mass ended, and then we, Father Neil and I are up at the front, and we brought up each pair at a time, gave them name tags. David, this is your prayer buddy, John. And then once everybody was paired up, we took a picture and then came back to the parish center, and we had coffee and donuts, but then we also had an activity. It was a simple icebreaker involving a dice with questions on there, just to help with the conversation. And so the child sat down with their prayer buddy. They rolled the dice, got to know each other that way. There was a prayer card that the child signed and the parishioner took home, so the parishioner can pray for that child leading up to First Communion. The pairs each said a prayer together before they left, and it was again one of those things where it was like, who was this best for? It really was awesome. It was like the parents were just delighted to see their child connecting with somebody, to have somebody praying over their child. The parishioners felt so honored to be asked, even though I was just so thankful that they did this, but they really enjoyed it. And then the kids felt really special too. So all around, it was a really meaningful piece. I kind of just dreaming a little bit. It's like, how awesome would it be for these pairs to see each other at mass? And how are you? I remember you liked soccer when you were in second grade. How's it going? And just, it could be a really, the start of a really like wonderful relationship there. And then it makes me think about, what about our confirmation students? Like, what if we started this like in first grade, and just having the pairing, but then the possibility of just friendship would be lovely, but then maybe it's mentoring and just sort of seeing where this all leads. And so just, sometimes I just jump in. I'm like, I don't know if this is going to work. And then you try it, and sometimes it doesn't. But then you learn, certain things from it. And I was lucky with this one that it was well received, and it's making me think about what else can we do, in this kind of format and with these pairs. So that was a lot of fun.
I mean, that's so great. Number one, that you have no fear of failure. And I think that's kind of the first step. Is sometimes in church world, we can think, oh, is it going to work? Is it not going to work? And we in the time that it would have taken to try it and see, we kind of sit in ourselves and wonder, well, will it or will it not? And it's not ever an uneducated decision. Like you said, there was a previous thing. You kind of took it for something that once was, and, you reached out to adults and they said yes. And so it's kind of, you keep going down the line and seeing that it's working, and people keep saying yes. And so you just follow where it leads. And I think that's a great example of just kind of discerning where the Spirit is leading someone, that if it comes together and it works, then it's a good sign for it to work. But what also just a great example of just, parishes by their nature are intergenerational. There are older individuals, there are middle-aged individuals, there are young individuals. And if we really want to talk about church as community, part of it is putting them in community with each other. And so that there could be older, wise, practicing Catholics who can then have that moment to pass that on to the younger generation of that parish. And so really what parish is all about. So thank you so much for facilitating that kind of encounter between them. And you're right, it opens up so many possibilities where, now we see more and more so the need for young people to have mentors in their lives. That parents are essential, but also having other adult mentors they can trust in the faith is so critical for faith transmission as we get on later. So a great start that we'd love to see, and keep us posted on how that develops in kind of the years to come.
Thank you. Can I share one more thing? That has worked well is Christian Action Project. So this has been a really neat thing with some good bridges, where we certainly do some simple projects in the classroom, note cards to veterans, Thanksgiving cards, things like that. But it's been amazing. Like once we started to open up and partner with the parish at large, when we've done, for example, in September, we did a community mass, the Knights made pancakes, and then we did a school supply drive, where the parishioners, the families were all extremely generous in donating backpacks, school supplies. And the part I wanted to talk about was the actual assembly of the bags. Like that piece really speaks to any hands-on project we have found, speaks to our families. Like their family time is precious. And I feel like families are looking for something meaningful to do as a family, that makes an impact. And so something as simple as coming after Mass, for 40 minutes, coming and doing a hands-on project, that's going to make a big difference in the community. Like we've seen a lot of good rallying behind that. We're now, opening and closing that with a prayer to make that piece meaningful as well. But the Christian Action Projects has definitely been a piece that has drawn every generation. That's been a great thing to open up to, the parish as a whole. So it's been good.
Great connections between families and parishes. Like that's what I keep hearing is there's something that's for the families, but it's also for parishes. I know you've mentioned a couple of times, who is this really good for? And it sounds like it benefits multiple generations of people in the parish life. And the fact that you've made it on Sundays, Children's Liturgy of the Word, doing something, 40 minutes after Mass, having people come to the 10:15 and then staying after. I think there's something to that where it's, to your point, if time is precious and families are looking for something that's meaningful, a starting point I would encourage for individuals watching this to think about is when you're thinking about what to do with children and young families, is it worth their time and is it accessible? Is it going to be a meaningful interaction that meets their need? And can it make it be easy for them to be here? So if we're going to ask them to be here at Mass, can we do something around the Mass? So these are some of the thoughts I think, Lynne, you've made some really good points on that I think are good points of consideration for churches to kind of consider. Last thing I'll ask you for our time here today is, in all of this and a great variety of things that you've tried and that you've learned from, what would be advice that you'd give to other parishes, recommendations or kind of lessons learned along the way and how to best kind of minister to children and families?
I think that just trying new things. I actually learned that from you, where it's like, I'm not going to get 100% of the people to come, right? So it's like, whatever we're going to do, even if I have 3 people, but they had a good experience, like they're going to come back and then that's going to grow and that's going to grow. And this all this population, they're all going to need different things as well. So like, what are the priorities there? So I think just trying, asking for people to help. That's something I have a hard time doing, but I'm realizing more and more that people really do want to help make an impact, and get involved. And then I really feel like it's just all of these things that I'm talking about they literally came from somebody else. And so just being open to new ideas and like reflecting and like just kind of seeing like where the Holy Spirit takes you on your own journey, like with your parish, I think is it's kind of exciting. And it's looking back, it's pretty neat the things that have come together because of that. So I think just being open and just listening to the people around us that we're ministering to.
Awesome. No, very well said, Lynne. And we're so grateful for your continued work in ministering to families up in Easton, and just creating so many opportunities for them to be able to be church. For anyone wanting to learn more, we're going to have some links below in the description in the chat if you want to be able to learn more about what Lynne is doing at Immaculate Conception or what's going on in the area. Or if you're a family in the area and you want to check them out, by all means, check out Immaculate Conception North Easton. But Lynne, thanks again for your time and for everything you do.